knee or something. Remember that? So it's awesome. It's awesome. It was a great time. Yeah. So well, it was split. I forget what he twisted, but it'll be a great time. But we could use all here. We could use everybody. If you can pass out a flyer, we need you here on the 15th for a flyer blitz. Clubs are in full swing this week and next week. Nursing home is May 20th. Graduation and awards night May 25th. It's just the next few weeks are just jam-packed here. I hope you're able to make as many of those events as you can. Ask the men if they'd come forward for tonight's offering. If you're in other ministries, there's just a chance for you to give back a portion of what the Lord's done for you this week. And ask one of our deacons, Brother Tom Oliar, if he would say a blessing on tonight's offering.
Our Father, we do thank you for this opportunity we have to come back to church here this evening, Lord. We thank you for the open door here at Bible Baptist, and we thank you for the good offering we've had in the past to meet the needs of this church. Now we ask you to bless this offering tonight, bless the gift and the giver. In Jesus' name, amen.
All right, if you guys take your hymn one last time, turn to 572. Go ahead and stand for this last one. 572, Blessed Assurance. Blessed Assurance, Jesus is mine. 572. Turn on the first. Blessed assurance, Jesus is mine. Oh, what a foretaste of glory divine. Heir of salvation, purchase of God, born of his Spirit, washed in his blood. This is my story, this is my song, praising my Savior all the day long. This is my story, this is my song, praising my Savior all the day long. Take a minute and greet one another. That's what she said too. But then I was like, this morning. You right, as everybody makes their way back to their seat before Miss Lauren's hands fall off, join me on the second verse of 572. Perfect submission, perfect delight, visions of rapture now burst on my sight. Angels descending bring from above echoes of mercy, whispers of love. This is my story, this is my song, praising my Savior all the day long. This is my story, this is my song, praising my Savior all the day long. Verse number 3. Perfect submission, all is at rest. I and my Savior am happy and blessed, watching and waiting, looking above, filled with His goodness, lost in His love. This is my story, this is my song, praising my Savior all the day long. This is my story, this is my song, praising my Savior all the day long. Wonderful singing. You can be seated.
We're going to be in 1 Corinthians chapter 3 this evening. We're going to try the wireless out again and see what happens. It didn't work all that hot for me this morning. I will do a quick recap of this morning's message. We'll go through the slides. For those of you who maybe were in other ministries or missed this morning, we'll go through the slides, just quick recap, and then I'll get into this evening's portion of the service. I promised I would not be long tonight. I preached this morning longer than I usually do when Pastor's gone, and so I promised I would not be as long tonight. So I will keep that promise. I will not be near as long tonight. But it kind of ties in with this morning's message, so I want to make sure we give God His due time for the Holy Spirit to work as He sees fit. The series of messages today are called Unplugged, and I started off by saying I am not against technology. Please do not think that I am completely against technology with this. I am a tech guy. I love technology. I love electronics. I love my cell phone. I run my schedule, my calendar. I run everything off of my cell phone. And I love technology. However, the idea behind these messages is we kind of start losing focus of God when we get so wrapped up, and not just in technology, but when our attention gets diverted so many different ways. And so we used the verse out of 1 Kings this morning. I was telling you about these control rooms that businesses have all over the world. These control rooms are very scary places, actually. This is where a group of workers, very intelligent people, come together and try and figure out how to control your mind. They are battling and spending billions of dollars to focus on getting your attention, and that's their whole job. And there's rooms like this all over businesses, such as social media sites, newsrooms, television stations, many businesses, but really specifically we're honing in on social media this morning because that's what Pastor asked me to do, if nothing else, was to hone in on social media. And so we started talking about those control rooms, and there's 2.5 billion social networking users. 81% of Americans have a social networking profile. 1,100 different social media apps, which is crazy when you think about it, all geared towards gaining your attention, the most valuable resource. We showed you this slide with the average work day. This is 3 different time periods over the last 10 years, where the average work day, people spend how much time they sleep, how much time on average, work and commute. Survival is things like eating, hygiene, taking care of yourself, showering, brushing your teeth, taking care of children, things like that. That's all wrapped up in survival, leaving this white personal space at the end. And this is the space, I made the comment, this is a space where we make life. This is a space that defines really who we are as individuals, because it's a space where we do things like hobbies. It's where we take the time to reflect back on things that we've accomplished, or maybe think about things we would like to accomplish. It's the time that we take, I had some other things, to be creative, to build relationships. This is all that white space. And over the course of the past 10 years,
We have filled that white space with screen time, and on the next slide shows you in the red how much screen time that we have decided to fill that space with. This screen time went from very minimal time, actually leaving us with about 2 hours and 45 minutes a day of space of time in order to make life happen. And if you take the screen time on average now, it is down to 13 minutes on average that people are living their lives. 13 minutes outside of screen time. That is a crazy, bad average. But you can see why social media companies would be so intent, why other companies, why apps and games and all of these are so intent on going after screens, because if they can capture your attention, they make money. It's where they make a profit based on you not living your life. So the competition drives them to go after your instinctive brain rather than your cognitive brain. We talked about the different emotions that these companies go after. The 4 top emotions that they drive for are sorrow. They try and make you feel sad. Fear. They try and scare you about something. Shock. They try and form some form of surprise. And their most valuable asset is anger. This is how they make most of their attention grabbing. They get you upset about something and get you focused on it. Facebook loves to throw out posts about political views, and it gets everybody in arms. So people read the articles, they share them. News sites love to do that. These companies are making billions to make you feel sad, afraid, shocked, and upset. And that's how they make money. And then we fall into the trap of paying them in some cases to do it. We pay them with our time, with our resources, with our energies, and even with our monies, where we purchase games and things like that. There's so many things about the online video games. I shared the story with the boy who looked at me and said that he's just miserable playing online video games, but he likes to do it for some reason. He's literally spending his money to purchase games where people make fun of him and swear at him and make him feel bad, but he continues to spend his time doing it. I don't know why. There's no real reason, actually, to be honest with you. And believe it or not, I didn't give this statistic this morning, but when I say that these places would rather put up an ad that makes you angry than what makes you calm or feel good, it's a very true statement. We as individuals, for whatever reason, on average, spend 3 times the amount of time on apps that make us feel bad than apps that make us feel good. We spend 3 times the amount of time on television shows, programs, movies, anything that makes us feel bad, screen time that makes us feel bad, rather than makes us feel good. That's an amazing thought. You figure 75% of your screen time is making you feel bad on average. It's making you feel these emotions. Why do we do it? Why does it work? So we gave you the reason why. Technology has removed all the built-in stops we used to have. We used to have built-in stops in our lives where we would go outside and play, and when it got dark, it was time to stop. We came inside. We would read a newspaper. When we got to the end, it was time to stop. We folded it and set it aside. When we would watch a television show back in the day, you would watch the show and you had to wait a whole other week to watch the next episode, which sounds just absolutely crazy to teenagers who binge watch hours and hours of shows at a time. These natural stopping points have completely been gotten rid of. And we talked about these 3 companies in particular, but it's every company. They find ways to capture your attention and to hold on to it. So YouTube just starts keeping them playing videos one after another. Netflix will start playing the next episode once an episode finishes. Facebook began putting videos within the wall. As you scroll through, a video will automatically play, and it captures your attention. And not a statistic, we fall prey unintentionally to this. When we're scrolling through our Facebook page, and like I said, I have nothing against any of these things. I think they can all be used well. But when we're watching and we're coming through, it's unintentional. But think about it. If every time you pass a video, you unintentionally watch 10 or 15 seconds of a video, all of a sudden, you've unintentionally wasted minutes and hours of your days. The time piles up. And it's because they capture your attention. The video starts playing and, oh, I'll watch and see what happens. And most of the time, it's the cat falls but lands on its feet. It doesn't really matter. And then they add, I mentioned on top of this, they add things like streaks and daily bonuses, and they're all designed to manipulate your emotions. They do these things because they want to make you feel as if you're losing out on something, as if you've broken something, and they make you feel bad about missing something. These games, I have games on my phone. I don't have anything against games. I have Pokemon for teenagers. I have Pokemon. I don't play it a lot, but I do have it on my phone. And one of the things that a simple game like that there's not really anything wrong with in and of itself, it makes you feel bad if you miss a day. They have these streaks, and you want to get 7-day streaks in order to get cool stuff. And if you don't have the cool stuff, then you can't move on to the next level, and it makes it difficult. So you feel as if you're losing out on something if you don't do it every single day. And it makes you feel bad. And all of these companies do it. They all do it in order to grab your attention and make you feel bad if you've not given them your attention. Here's the statement that I heard the most about this morning. Technology has crossed the line of changing what we do to changing who we are. Technology is no longer about just something we do. It has become us. It is a way of life. It has become socially acceptable to be sitting there on your cell phone in the middle of a church service. It has become socially acceptable to be sitting there shopping during a business meeting. It's amazing what social acceptance has adapted to. I said it this morning. There's employers out there who actually look for people who can text while maintaining eye contact so they can multitask for the company. It has become a skill for people. We talked about all of these things. All these things are wind and earthquakes and fire, and God just wants to talk to us in the midst of all of it. And he's there in a still small voice, and we miss the voice so often. By the way, I did want to make a comment. I was talking about Snapchat in particular this morning. I got off on the tangent on Snapchat, and I have had 2 different people approach me since I preached that message this morning. One of them just some serious cyberbullying that was going on with a child. Another one came to me and said, actually, their 17-year-old nephew, as smart as a whip, great kid, nothing wrong with him whatsoever, 17 years old. Things happened on Snapchat, and he took his own life. And the parents have no way to go back and figure out what happened. No way. You're stuck. I said it this morning. I wouldn't trust myself with a Snapchat account. I would not have one, and I would not use one, let alone a child who is still, their mind is still developing. Their mind is still susceptible to all of these emotions, and they have no way to control. Listen, teenagers have no way to control their emotions. We all know that. That's part of being a teenager. That's part of the growing process. And we're taking and handing them things that are meant, literally designed for adults to cheat on their spouses, and we're handing them into teenagers and saying, here you go. We're going to go ahead and trust you with it. If you are a parent who has a child with a Snapchat account, I would love to sit down and talk with you and have you give me a reason that it's wise for them to have it. I am more than willing to listen. Tell me I'm wrong. Show me I'm wrong. But there is no way I'm going to trust the flesh of a teenager when I can't even trust the flesh of an adult with something so powerful and dangerous. Yeah, that's all I'll say about it for tonight. It's the earthquakes, things going on, the wind, the fire. God wants to talk to us in a still small voice. Be still and know that I am God. In our rush to connect with other people, we have lost our connection with the divine creator. So how do we get it back? We talked about it this morning. Very simply, we acknowledge. We acknowledge that our attention is being fought for. We acknowledge that we are persuadable. By the way, to allow a teenager to have a Snapchat account is to say, I believe that my child is not persuadable, that Satan cannot touch them and persuade them. That is exactly what you're saying as an adult. They are persuadable just like you are. And we need to be still and hear God. We need to acknowledge that we need time with God. We said to act, schedule quiet time. Make sure that you have set some alone time with you and God to be quiet. Create no tech spaces in your home. I was asked about this morning. There are places in my home where you will not find technology. My kitchen is one of them. When we sit down for dinner, we as a family, when we sit down for dinner, there is no technology at the table except my cell phone is in my pocket, which I only answer for my wife, my mother, or my pastor. When I'm eating with my family, those are the only 3 phone calls that I will take at the dinner table. So if you try and call me during dinner, you're going to voicemail. We have a no tech zone. We have no tech zones in our children's bedrooms. They are not allowed any technology whatsoever in their bedrooms. Oh, you can do that? I gave the story this morning about Steve Jobs when he released the iPad. He released the iPad, talked it up as the greatest thing ever invented, and in many cases we have bought into that as Americans. And 2 months later, he's asked by a New York Times journalist, how do your kids like playing games on the iPad? And he said, my kids have never seen an iPad. Steve Jobs, the inventor, the owner of the company who sells it, says they've never even seen it. The Waldorf School in Silicon Valley, $24,000 a year tuition per student per year, $24,000. In the middle of Silicon Valley, 75% of their students come from high-tech, high-level executives in technology companies. They don't introduce any screens in their school until 8th grade. 8th grade. Because they feel, I didn't say this morning, but they feel up until 8th grade, the child needs to develop their creative thinking and their critical thinking. And when we put screens in front of them, it takes away from both of those. Their minds don't develop in either of those key areas by placing screens in front of them. We literally are making our children dumber because we keep shoving screens in front of them. And honestly, it's because we as adults have never learned how to use them. It's new. We don't understand what we're doing with it. We're trying to figure it out. Well, in the process of us trying to figure it out, do you think it's smart to just hand it off to kids and turn them loose? If you as an adult can't figure it out, what do you think a kid or a teenager is going to do with it? They're never going to get it. Replace screen time with FaceTime. Set the screens aside, look at your wife in the eyes, and actually talk. Set the screens aside and look at your kids and actually have a conversation. One of my favorite times with my kids is every now and then I get one of them alone in my car. And whether it's we come to school, I bring them to school early one day, or we take them home from church one afternoon or something. No technology, nothing going on, just me and the child talking. As bad as I am at talking for my kids. But it's some of my favorite times. And then be accountable to somebody. Make sure you listen even to the most boring of boring parts. Lock in for the whole thing. Pay attention to the whole sermon. Pay attention to the whole business meeting. Pay attention to the whole conversation with your wife. I know that's difficult, guys. But pay attention to the whole conversation with your wife and not pick up halfway through. It's very odd when my wife starts conversations with, why aren't you listening to me? Can't figure that one out. So I asked you, how much time is God actually getting? How much of your attention does God get when we're spending that much time on screens? And listen, I'm not saying screens are bad. I really am not. There are some very productive things that can happen with screens. I love the fact that our church has a Facebook account, that we have a YouTube channel, that you can get onto and check Bible Baptist Church in Latrobe, Pennsylvania, and pull up the YouTube videos from this morning and watch it if you missed it. You can pull up any of our archived YouTube videos at Bible Baptist Church on YouTube, and you can find it and watch it. I will say it 40 times. You can find them. We have the Facebook page. We have one for the school. We have one for the academy as well. I think there's some great things that can happen with technology, but man, we have got to find a balance. And if we have a hard time finding a balance as adults, what makes you think your child has grown up to try and figure out that balance on their own? We have to put those stops in place for them. We've lost all the natural stopping points in life because of technology, so now we have to create those stopping points. Tonight I'm going to be in 1 Corinthians chapter 3. I'm going to read several verses. The key verse there is verse 13. But I'm going to start back in verse 10. Just read some verses here. It says, according to the grace of God, which is given unto me as a wise master builder, I have laid the foundation, and another buildeth thereon. But let every man take heed how he buildeth thereupon. For other foundation can no man lay than that is laid, which is Jesus Christ. Now, if any man build upon this foundation gold, silver, precious stones, wood, hay, stubble, every man's work shall be made manifest. For the day shall declare it, because it shall be revealed by fire, and the fire shall try every man's work of what sort it is. If any man's work abide which he hath built thereupon, he shall receive a reward. If any man's work shall be burned, he shall suffer loss. But he himself shall be saved, yet so as by fire. Know ye not that ye are the temple of God, and that the Spirit of God dwelleth in you? At some point or another, if we are saved, we are going to be standing and giving an account for the works that we have accomplished, for the things that we have done, the things that we have said after our salvation. And the Lord's going to look, and he's going to try it by fire. And at the end of that fire, there's going to be something laying there. And it's either going to be gold, silver, and precious stones, or there's going to be a pile of ash that the wind is going to just carry away into nothingness. And so I was thinking about this, and this is a message that I basically preached several years ago. This is what Pastor really wanted me to focus in on tonight. At some point or another, we're going to stand in judgment. And so I want to apply maybe just some logic to specifically social media. In this case, I'm going to use Facebook because, well, that's my Facebook account, and I've got an awesome family, and so I'm going to use them as an example. But in all honesty, what would you have done if I would have put your Facebook page up here instead? And that's a thought that I want you to get. By the time we get to the end, what if it was your Facebook page that we put up here? Now mine has my family, and I think there's something there from Miss Rachel, some albums and pictures, and you can see all my friends, and I have a whopping 170, I can't even read it, 175 friends, I think it is, something like that, which is not very many, but that's okay. I'm okay with that. Almost all of them I actually personally know, which is a shock, I know, for anybody who uses Facebook. But this is my Facebook page, and so I'm going to use it, and I'm just going to tie a few little things together for you tonight, and really, ultimately, the two messages go together like this. I want you to get, how much are you really giving to God? And then in the process, when you're using the technology, how much are you really thinking about the consequences? So I want you to just take my Facebook page here, and we're going to look, first of all, at, let's see here, our friends, right? Yes, just making sure the right thing gets highlighted there. We're going to look at our friends. I want you to think about the company that you keep. I want you to think about the company that you keep. This is not limited to just Facebook. This could be friends you actually have. This could be people that you know, acquaintances, things like that. And I just want to ask you a couple questions. When I look at my friends, there are two categories that I put my friends into. I put my friends into, number one, the category of I would let them influence me, and two, I would not let them influence me. So the idea behind this point is to be very cautious about who you spend your time with and what's your reasoning behind having the relationship. The first verse that came to mind whenever I was thinking about this was, be not unequally yoked together with unbelievers. For what fellowship hath righteousness with unrighteousness, and what communion hath light with darkness? I am not by any stretch of the imagination saying you should not have unsaved friends. I think we all should have unsaved friends. The question is, why do we have our unsaved friends? When I look at the example that Jesus gives us in the Gospels, Jesus was very cautious when he spent time with publicans and sinners. There was one reason he did it, and that was to see them get saved. I think it's wonderful to have unsaved friends, but the purpose behind it needs to make sure that you're trying to see them get saved. Every contact with them should be focusing on seeing them get saved, seeing them come to know Jesus Christ. And you need to be careful, because if you are spending time with somebody without the purpose of trying to take them to Jesus Christ, chances are somebody that should not be influencing you is going to be influencing you. The influence will come, if we're not careful, when we lose our purpose of why we spend time or we communicate with somebody, specifically to point people to Christ. There is a group, however, that I caution you to avoid. Paul tells us, "But now I have written unto you not to keep company. If any man that is called a brother be a fornicator, or covetous, or an idolater, or a railer, or a drunkard, or an extortioner, with such an one, no, not to eat." This group of people is Christians who are in some very obvious sins. The Bible is pretty clear that you should not be fellowshipping with that type of person. So when I look at the life of Jesus and I see him spending time with publicans and sinners, I see him trying to influence them to salvation, but you look at how he talks to and about the Pharisees. It was not very positive. And so when I look at this, I think, and it breaks your heart as a Christian. I understand that. This is one of the hardest things that you have to do if you're a Christian, is to break fellowship with somebody because they are in some of these obvious things. But you need to be very careful. And your friends will determine your future. Teenagers, your friends will determine your future. You look at your friends and the lifestyle that they live, and that's the direction that you're going to head. Be careful. So next, not just the company you keep, I'm going to point out the character that you show. The character that you show. I use the photos. I'm sure there's other things that you could use in place of this, but I use photos for this. The first verse that I have here, "Wherefore, seeing we also are compassed about with so great a cloud of witnesses, let us lay aside every weight and the sin which doth so easily beset us. Let us run with patience the race that is set before us." Now, I will say, even with Snapchat, which is impossible for parents to trace, anything that goes out on the internet is permanent. Anything that goes out could be there forever. It doesn't matter if you try and erase it, take it down, delete it, change it. It is there forever and can be brought back up against you. So be very careful in today's technology. This is something that we are just learning. And it comes out in political races now, where people who posted things 10 and 12 years ago, it's being dug back up and brought against them. It is amazing what can be found about a person when you start doing some digging. There are people watching you. As a matter of fact, most of the time, if we're not very careful with our profiles, everybody's watching us. So the things that you post, the things that you show, and even the things that you view can come back to haunt you. So I'm going to go back and talk about this morning and unsupervised technology with kids. And we'll make this statement. I'm going to try and be very careful how I make this statement. Teenagers, if you have to shut your phone off or turn it so I can't see it when I'm walking past, what is it that you're looking at? Husbands, if you have to click your screen off when your wife walks in the room, what is it you're looking at? It never goes away completely. it can always be traced back. In all things, showing thyself a pattern of good works, in doctrine, showing uncorruptness, gravity, sincerity, sound speech that cannot be condemned, that he that is of the contrary part might be ashamed, having no evil thing to say of you. Think about this. You should live a life so that I could not accuse you. You should live a life so Satan can't accuse you, but I guess you could make that correlation in your mind. If I can accuse you, there's something wrong. You need to live a life that's pure and careful and safe. Not just the company or the character you show and the company that you keep, but the content of your mind. The content of your mind. What do you like? What is it that you like? In Facebook, it gives you the option to like things. And it's so cool now because you can hold the like button and put little hearts and things like that on it. And it's awesome. And I give hearts to all kinds of stuff now because I'm old and I can. It used to be that you just liked everything and that's all you did. But now you can throw a whole slew of emotions at it. What is it that you like? Interestingly, something I didn't touch on this morning, but I'll give it to you tonight. There are professional scientists out there who take somebody's social networking profile. They take their friends, they take their interests, and they take anything that they like. Everything that you like can be tracked. There's algorithms written to track everything that you like. And they take these things and they form a profile about you. These massive science companies form a profile. Then they take that profile and sell it to advertising companies. So, how strong is this? Well, one of the videos I was watching, a lady who's actually in this industry, it's what she does for a living. She said several years ago, Target started doing this, the company Target. And they started getting these profiles, having somebody put it together for them and send it to them. And it's so in depth that it takes into consideration things like the size of a purse a woman buys, how big the purse is versus how small it is. It's that detailed to the point where they sent a flyer to a 15-year-old girl for a bunch of baby products and pregnancy products 2 weeks before she told anybody she was pregnant. 15-year-old girl, they pegged it on her social networking profile. How crazy is that? The things that you like eventually come back around. It is amazing what can be traced by the things that you like. There are things, there's companies out there, and that's the reason Facebook is a commodity. You have become the product. They sell you. They profile you and figure you out, and they sell you to advertising companies. And they make money because of you having friends and liking things and posting things. Pretty smart, really. It is. It's an ingenious thing. It feels like an invasion of privacy, I'm sure. And if it gets you angry, great. I've hit way back on the emotions that I talked about this morning, and maybe it'll stick, and you'll spend some time dwelling on it and what it does. They take advantage of you, is what they do. And they figure you out, and that's how they trap you. They get you with the content of your mind. What you like, what you don't like, things that you enjoy, your hobbies, all those things that it gets you to do online, and they profile you with it. It should scare you. It should shock you. It should anger you. It should make you sad. Because I am sure that I'm not the only one in here that thinks back of all the things that I've texted or written or liked over the years and think, man, the content of my mind has not always been pure. It has not always been lovely. It has not always been of a good report. And it should make you sad. The content of your mind. Here's the verses that I came up with for it. That verse that I was just quoting, obviously. You should be liking things that fit into these categories. You should be spending your time dwelling on these things that are true, honest, just, pure, lovely, of good report. These are the things that you should be liking as individuals. What is it that you like on your Facebook page? When I scroll down and I pull up your likes and see what it is, would they fit into this category? It's scary to think about. Wrong way. There we go. Unto the pure, all things are pure, but unto them that are defiled and unbelieving is nothing pure. But even their mind and conscience is defiled. One of the greatest phrases ever uttered at a March Madness by Brother Stephen Griffiths. And he's been doing it for about 10 years. And I've been involved with March Madness for 12 or 13 years, I think, something like that. And, more than that, 13 or 14 years, something like that. One of the greatest phrases ever uttered at a March Madness was, a pure heart is easily entertained. It is amazing how easy it is to smile when you're not exposed to a whole bunch of junk that's not on that list. When we fill our minds with things of the world, it becomes a whole lot harder to be entertained. Why is it that years and years ago, it was not an issue to sit and listen to a preacher speak for an hour without any thought or concern whatsoever, even to the youngest of children? And yet in today's day and age, you can't get them to focus and look up at the platform for 4 solid minutes because they can't be entertained by it anymore because we've defiled them and they've defiled themselves. Unto the pure, all things are pure. What's in your mind? Not just the company you keep and the character you show, the content of your mind, but lastly, the caring of your heart, the status. What is it you post? What is it that you need to update people on? By the way, I could care less what you had for dinner. It really doesn't matter to me. And that spider on your back porch, it can stay in your back porch. I don't even know where the one from this morning went. I didn't take a picture of it and post it online. I actually refrained myself. I told somebody I'm going to stand up here and take a selfie in the middle of the service for everybody. Let them all say, oh, wait. Take a selfie for everybody. Listen, it's common sense. Just be careful what you post. Please. Think. Think before you post. No matter what it is. Think. Many of you have probably heard this acronym before. But man, we are good as human beings at attacking somebody in our posts. We're great at being passive aggressive. I'm one of the best. I'm fantastic at it. Ask my wife. I'm the most passive guy you'd ever meet. But man, do I attack hard sometimes. Think. We can be the meanest to our coworkers. And you know, they need Jesus just as much as anybody else. And when you post it, it's there forever. It doesn't matter how quick you try and take it down. It has been cached. It's called caching. It has been cached on servers all across the world. Think before you post. Think. T. Ooh, wait. Oh, yeah. We got the spinny. Got to throw that out there for you. I thought I took that off of there. I apologize. That's going to spin the rest of the time because I think I forgot to take it off. That's going to get really annoying. Ask yourself, is it true? Is it an absolute honest statement that you are making? Are you 100% certain that it is an absolute honest statement that you're making? If it's anything short of 100% certain truth, don't do it. Don't speak it. Don't say it. You can look up this way. You don't have to stare at the thing spinning, honestly. It'll kill you. It'll get there eventually. I really thought I took that off. That's so awful. That is the worst mistake I've ever made with a PowerPoint. I was just messing, trying to see what it would do, and now you see what it does. Is it helpful? Is it helpful? Are these words actually going to help somebody? Specifically the person that you're writing them about or speaking to them or of them. Is it helpful to them? It's got to be true first, but then it's also got to be helpful and productive to them. How about, is it inspiring? Is this going to make somebody want to be a better person? The Bible tells us that we're to uplift and edify one another. We are to exalt one another. Is it inspiring somebody to be a better person, or are you just attacking their character, which is going to do nothing but make them upset? Is it inspiring to them? By the way, if you would do this before you spoke to your wives, husbands, it would probably save a lot of arguments. If you would do this before you spoke to your husbands' wives, it would probably save a lot of frustrations. And I promise you, parents, if you did this before you spoke to your children, it'll change their lives forever. Can't expect it out of them if we don't do it ourselves. That's an unfair expectation. Is it going to make them want to be a better person? Is it necessary? Do you actually really need to say it? Some things, I promise you, are better left unsaid. There have been many times where I have wanted to just go after somebody. And it's just better to keep my mouth shut. Oh, I can be right. It can be true. It can be honest. And I can inspire them to be a better person. I can promise you that. But it might not be necessary to say. Some things are truly better left unsaid. Is it necessary? And then is it kind? Man, is there a better way that you could state it? There are a lot of times when I should say things differently than what I did. They might fall into the other categories, but I could have probably found a better way to say it. Most of the time, most arguments that we get into are not what we say, it's how we say it. So think before you speak. Is it true, helpful, inspiring, necessary, and kind? And as much as I want to stay on that slide, I just can't. So let me ask you this. What's your status with God? If I were to look at your status with God, if your Facebook page was up before the Lord, what would God post on your wall? Would your friends even know who your God is based on your social networking profile? I think that is one of the saddest questions that I've ever had to answer myself. You think about it. My 175 friends, how many of them know who my God really is? If I post about my car or myself or even my family all the time, not that there's anything wrong, but do they really know who my God is? Have I made any influence on them? Going back to that first point about who our friends are. Am I making any influence? So, I've shown you my Facebook page. Now, who should we look at next? It's a laptop. We could pull up any of them. I could pull up Lauren Hoffer's Facebook page, put it right there for the whole world to see. To some of you, that might be a scary thought. But let me just close with this. God's already seen it. The eyes of the Lord are in every place, beholding the evil and the good. He's got your Facebook page. He's got your thoughts. He knows what's in your heart. He knows the friends you keep and why you keep them. He knows. What's your page look like? Let's all stand with our heads bowed and eyes closed. One of the features that social networking is putting into their apps and their sites is the ability for you to see who's been checking out your profile. It's pretty simple tonight. God's been checking it out. He's been looking. And it's not just Facebook, and it's not just Instagram, and it's not just Snapchat. He's watching everything that you do, every game that you're on, every app that you've touched, every website that you've scrolled to, every movie that you watch, every television show you put on the television. He is watching it all. And if you've got to try and hide it from me when I walk past, imagine what he thinks looking at that with you. What a shame. Listen, I didn't give an invitation this morning, but I am going to open it up tonight. I feel as if the Lord is leading that way. I think some people probably have some decisions that God is trying to push them to make. Maybe it has to do with this morning's message. Maybe it has to do with this evening's. But I have a feeling that somehow God is working in some lives, specifically in regards to social media and technology. And hopefully, how scary it can be. So I'm going to ask the piano begin to play. And listen, the altar's open to use as you see fit. I'm not going to ask any questions. I'm not going to discuss anything. If God is speaking to you, if you need to make some changes as an individual, as a family, if you need to get together and figure out how to set some parameters, if you need to counsel, if you need questions, ask me. I'm here. I want to be a help and a blessing to your family. But parents, protect those precious gifts that God has given you. Teenagers, protect your eyes. Protect your mind, because once it's defiled, it can never be pure again. Before we dismiss in prayer, I did promise I would give some of the specific people that helped put this together, really, in all honesty. A lot of this information was just taken from these people in particular. There are several more, but a lot of the slides and things like that, I want to make sure I gave credit to those people, because it's important you know that this is not my opinion. This is not just some random thoughts. This is the best of the best in their fields. As a matter of fact, I could probably get you links to the talks to each of these if you ever needed them. I'd have to dig them up again. But if you've ever heard of TED Talks, it's technology and education development. These are the highest professionals in their arenas. And they come together and they just speak on their topics for a few minutes each, and that is where most of this information came from, just so you are aware. Brother Clark, would you dismiss us with a word of prayer, sir?